not enough.
Have some discipline. Have some discipline.
You're listening to Hart Beat Radio.
Bob Johnson coming to you live from the Hart Beat Radio studios in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We've got a great show for you for about the next hour. We're going to be presenting Outlaw Ron Bass on the air right now. I have our co-host, Matt Merz from Portland Wrestling.
Good to hear your voice, Bob. Excited to learn a little bit more about Ron Bass and his wrestling history.
Bruce Hart, our host of the show. Welcome back to Hart Beat Radio, Bruce.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us, and I'm looking forward to talking with Ron again. I had a chance the other time to hook up with Ron back in the day in WWE and a few other places, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'd like to welcome our guest this afternoon, Outlaw Ron Bass. He spent many years in NWA Florida Championship Wrestling and Jim Crockett Promotions, and later in the WWF, now WWE. He has one of his big tag team partners was the great Stan Hansen, as well as Ken Mantell, Black Bart, Barry Windham, One Man Gang, and Moondog Maine. He had two of wrestling's best managers, our friend J.J. Dillon and the late great Sir Oliver Humperdinck. And he had some incredible singles feuds, battles against the Junkyard Dog, Brutus Beefcake, and Barry Windham, among others. But without any further ado, it's my privilege, on behalf of Hart Beat Radio and Bruce Hart and the gang, to welcome you to Hart Beat Radio, Mr. Ron Bass.
Thank you very much, buddy. Glad to be with you. I'm sitting here. I got the air conditioner running down here in Tampa, Florida. How's it up there in Calgary?
Just the opposite. We need anything but an air conditioner up here.
That's why I stayed. Nice to be on here where you get an opportunity to talk with lots of things. And I heard you talk about Portland wrestling. Who's representing Portland?
Well, my name is Matthew Merz. I'm a bit of a historian up here. I've been documenting the history of Portland wrestling for the last 13 years. Was very, very fortunate to get to know Dutch Savage for a few years before he passed away. And I'm always excited to hear other people talk about Lonnie Main and Tough Tony Bourne and Roddy Piper and Killer Tim Brooks. And I know that was really your heyday when you were Sam Oliver Bass.
Let me give you one statement, see if you've heard this before. One at a time, slow and easy. Portland was one of those territories they still paid you every night, except when you went to Washington. And when you went down to Eugene and Salem and Roseburg, a couple of those towns, Don Owens' brother, Elton Owens, was the one that was running it, and that was one of his favorite things. One at a time, slow and easy. That was the payday. That just come to mind when I heard you talk about Portland.
How did you end up getting all the way to Portland from way down in the south?
Well, I was in Atlanta, Georgia, working there, and Lonnie Main came in, and we met there. And him and I went to Dallas and worked there in that territory for a while. And Lonnie, he says, "You know what? I'm ready to go home." He says, "You ever been to the Northwest?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, let's go to Portland." He said, "The trips are short, and the money's pretty good." And I said, "Well, that sounds good to me because you work Dallas, man. You in Dallas one day, San Antonio, that's about 350 miles down to Corpus Christi, and then over to Houston, and then back to Dallas. You put some miles in, and that short trip, I kind of like that idea. So we go to Portland, and I heard him mention a minute ago Dutch Savage, and when I came in there, Dutch was the one that came up with the idea of changing my name. I'd always went by Ron Bass. I got started in the business with a brother and a woman that managed us. Her name was Ma Bass. It was Ron and Don Bass, Bass Bar Ma Bass. And we were in the Pensacola area in southern states, and it was a super hot angle. And so I'd always kept that name. Well, Ma was older, so she quit, and we went to Tennessee. And a guy by the name of Sam Bass was up there managing Jerry Lawler and a couple of guys up there.
Oh yeah, I remember that name. Was he in that car? He got killed in a car accident.
That's exactly right. Right before I went to Portland, and so when I got up there, I kind of didn't want to do that because of Sam. But then when they talked about the Sam Oliver, so you know, I was the SOB, and I said, you know what, that's going to catch on. So I went ahead and used it up there because I didn't think a lot of the fans in Portland would really know about way down here in Florida, so I didn't see it be very much of a problem. So I went in there and had a heck of a run. Went in there in 1977, and when I went in there on the, well, I don't know how you guys call it, the hillside was me and Jesse Ventura, Buddy Rose, and a guy under the mask name was Frank Monty. I forget what he called himself, but it was us four, plus they had some part-timers. On the other side of the ring, you had Lonnie, you had Jimmy Snuka, you had Jay Youngblood, and Les Thornton. So that was a pretty good little crew when we went in there, you know.
Oh, yeah, that was those guys are all legends, every one of them, you know. I knew a few of them, but, yeah, that would have been a high-powered bunch. Was Roddy and Martel in there yet? Or
he came in. I left there, and I came back in 79. I was 77. I was there the whole year, and I come back in 79, and that's when Piper and Mantell and the Sheep Herders and a couple of those guys come in at that time. They wasn't there my original time in 77, and they went back when I was in 79. There's very few towns in the country. You know, nowadays, you know, you run a town the way it's run now, you run a town maybe once or twice a year. But Portland, that was a little different. Portland run every Saturday night. Plus, every other Saturday night, they had what they call a Portland special. So you could actually work wrestle in the city of Portland itself 6 times in a month. That was just unheard of. So I like that. But, you know, I never had the good fortune to wrestle in Calgary when it was a territory as such. Stu Hart, man alive. If there's one person that ever talked about the wrestling business that people talk about that's been around for a while, Stu Hart was it. I mean, people used to imitate how he talked, and you know, and there you go. I just heard somebody with it. And some of the stories about him, it's just, I mean, there you go.
I booked that damn Ron Bass up here, but he.
Is that Bruce?
I'd like to get it. I'd like to get the best down in the dungeon and.
The dungeon, oh my word, that dungeon was legendary, man. Everybody knew about the dungeon, man.
I remember more than a few times, Ron, like my brother Owen or myself, we would call these rookies up impersonating Stu and have them send them on some wild goose chase or tell them they had to go to some hick town like 60 miles out of town to sign autographs on Saturday morning or some shit, and they would call Stu up from this place and say there's supposed to be a parade here at 6 in the morning in the middle of December, and Stu would be going, I don't know a damn thing about it. And then they would say, Stu, you sent me out here. I don't believe I did. But yeah, there was
that was, like I say, your dad he was a legend that nobody's going to duplicate, man. I mean, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Last time I talked to your dad, I was working Calgary for Vince. I was on the way out, starting to push Owen. And he was going as the Purple what was it, Blue Blazer?
Yeah, they had him doing the Blue Blazer and the Blue Demon and the American Eagle and a bunch of, you know.
Yeah, the Blue Blazer is what he was doing. And I was there, and like I say, it was my last show there, and I put him over big time there in his hometown. And your dad come up to me, he said, Ron, I want to thank you. He said, I've never seen anybody as much class to do what you just did for Owen than anybody I've ever seen. He says, thank you very much. And that was the last time I ever talked to your dad. And that left an impression on me, as you can tell. I mean, He didn't have to do that, but I really appreciated it.
That was kind of the way it was back in those days, Ron. You know, a guy, mindset of the business has changed, but, you know, the real professionals, guys like yourself, when you're finishing up or when somebody wanted you to get somebody over, you didn't have any qualms about doing the job or whatever. The guys used to go out and really go out of their way to get the other guy over, you know, and that was kind of the mark of the real professionals back then. You know, you'd have a guy like Harley or yourself or Dory or Terry and guys like that, and they would go, you know, out of their way, not just to do the job, but they would do everything they could to make the guy look good, you know, and take some bumps and get the heat.
Well, what goes around comes around. If you do it for somebody else, they'll do it for you.
Everybody in those days used to, you know, share perspectives. You know, I remember all the guys would come in from another territory, you know, guys like Honky Tonk and Schultz, and they would come in and everybody was talking back then, and they'd say, what kind of a guy is this guy or that guy, you know, and everyone would say, oh, he's a real good guy, you know, or, you know, he's a bit of an asshole or whatever.
Right.
And everybody.
Yeah, the second one got around real quick. Everybody knew who was a jerk and who wasn't.
Yeah, it was, you know, that's all I used to ever hear about when I was on the road. You know, everyone was talking about everyone else, you know, and you'd hear all Mick Goulas stories, and you'd hear all the stories about Eldon Owens and, you know, Dory Sr. Everyone had an impersonation of Eldon Owens or Jim Barnett or, you know,
what was the deal with
Eddie
Eldon
Graham.
Owens? Why does everyone have an impersonation of him?
Well, Elton was one of these guys that I'm not going to speak ill, but he liked the bottle pretty good, if you know what I mean. And time the matches was over, he was pretty blitzed. So he didn't really watch what he said, you know, and so he could insult people or make you laugh, do some of the silliest things you've ever seen. So
exactly like you said, he looked like he had a few. I think it was after the matches, and he was kind of half slurring his words and all together. And it was exactly like Stu, you know. You'd hear the impersonation, you'd hear him talking. It sounded like the impersonations everyone else had of him.
Right.
Know, so.
But again, well, I mean, I enjoyed working that territory, and like I say, I never had an opportunity to work for your dad. Of course, y'all had some trips up there too, didn't you? There were some long trips there, wasn't there?
I was always told Calgary and Louisiana were the worst. So I don't know where Leroy and Watts used to send them, but I know my dad would send them from, we were in Calgary, which is Western Canada, but he'd send them out to Vancouver or, you know, up to the Northwest Territories, which is like Yellowknife, or we would do Montana as well, as far down as Billings and Saskatchewan, and about 2,000 miles a week every week, you know. And
you could easily put 1,500 miles in Louisiana in that territory easily.
And I remember
several times we were booked in Tulsa on a Saturday night, and we had an afternoon show in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on Sunday. You didn't sleep that time. It was constant driving. If you just look at the map, go from Tulsa to Baton Rouge and figure that out on a Sunday afternoon show.
The only worst thing up here was they didn't have the snow and all that down there, I hope, you know. But
we didn't get into very many snowstorms. If it snowed down here in the south, the matches were canceled. You know, if the roads were that bad, people wasn't going to come out. You know, up there they're used to it and they'll still come out, but down here they'd cancel the matches, man. Are you kidding me? When you can look back at some of the years that we've been out there, and as I was talking to some of the guys before we come on, wrestling has changed so much to what I did and what we see today. I mean, can you imagine doing an hour at Broadway with somebody right now?
No. And that was kind of where the working really came in, you know. Like you were talking about before, everything's so damn scripted these days that it's, you know, damn near sterile. You take the crowd out of it, you know. But I remember back in the day, you know, the guys who were pretty good workers, and a lot of the guys you mentioned that were in Portland fit in that mode, you know, but everyone would, you know, just go out and main event usually was 30, 40 minutes every night. You know, very rarely did you have a main event going like 5 minutes or something like that, you know. And it was all,
you always up for the pop. You remember, everybody, we talked about that pop. Boy, you got to pop that crowd.
Yeah, and you always had to have them hot for the next week. You know, there was always some kind of.
Because we were coming back next week. It wasn't going to be a year before we come back. You had to tell that story. But I remember down here in Florida when I first got down here, I did 3 one-hour Broadways with Ric Flair. 3 of them in a week. I remember one TV. It was me and Bart against Rotundo and Windham. We did the whole television show. I mean, we did the Broadway on television. It just don't happen, you know, and you keep the people up and going at it, and to me, that's what I liked, you know.
Hey, Ron, I just wanted to ask you real quick. Can you talk a little bit about your history with Jimmy Snuka and Dutch Savage? Those were 2 of the guys you feuded with here in Portland Wrestling. I'm just curious to know if you have any memories of them.
Man, him traded that Pacific title I don't know how many times up there. I guarantee in a year's time there, I had at least 100 matches with him. And, you know, I was in his prime. And Snuka, oh, what a strong son of a buck he was, you know. You talk at him, you know, he was technique, he was strong. And you look at Savage, he had ring smarts with Savage that you didn't have to do some of the things you had to do with some of the others, and you still got the crowd going. So, you know, 2 different styles, but same results. You know, you got the people hot, you got the people excited, you got them wanting to come back. And that Snuka, man, I still remember that seeing him coming off that top rope on you. That ain't a pleasant sight, I guarantee you.
Now, let me ask you, was there a difference, Ron, in the way things were handled in Portland and Eugene with Don and Elton versus working for Dutch up in Seattle?
Not really. I mean, a lot of people didn't like Dutch, and so they try to buck the system or try to cause him problems. I ain't gonna name no names. So they kind of didn't really like Dutch, so they'd do what they wanted to. But you know, I gave the man respect, and I went out there, and it didn't matter if I was in Seattle or if I was in Portland. I went out and did the same thing, you know, tried to do my best. And so a lot of that animosity or the difference that came out of what happened up in Washington and then Washington State, where Dutch was really, I guess you'd call the booker, it came out of jealousy between guys not really liking Dutch. And, you know, Portland, remember, is one of those towns where when guys went there, they didn't leave. I mean, look how long Savage was there. Look how long Buddy Rose was there. Look how long Piper was staying. You know, people, they went there and they liked it and they stayed. So, you know, they all had to guard their own little turf, I guess you could say. And I was never like that. I'd do my run and I'd say, I'm out of here. And so, but you had a lot of jealousy and a lot of animosity. That's what caused the problems.
And was this in the time when Al Tomko was promoting British Columbia? Were you going up there too with Dutch?
I went up there. That was on the second run when I was up there that they were starting to run Vancouver, and we were up there every 2 weeks, I guess it was, that we were there, and it really, compared to what we was drawing in Portland and Seattle, and Vancouver really never came up and popped like it should have for some reason. I don't know what the deal was.
I always thought their TV show was pretty lame myself. You know, he's called.
I never saw their show, so I don't know. We sent interviews up there. Of course, that's interviews.
All the shows were studio shows then, but it was really bland. You know, that was my perspective. They had some good workers. I think Don Leo Jonathan was up there. And,
oh yeah, Don Leo. I forgot about him. What a hoss he was, man. Don Leo Jonathan, German giant, man.
Yeah, he was like 6'7" or something, and could do cartwheels, you know. And
he's one that Andre hurt his back with. They were doing some kind of a slam contest or something, and that's what really led to Andre had his back real bad was with Don Leo. You know, he was a hunter and fisherman and all this. And remember when they used to bring around the bear, the wrestling bear? Well, Don Leo got out there, and of course, you know, he's a monster himself. And so this old bear, he kept still standing up on his hind legs. Well, standing up there, like, guess what? The bear got tired. So he got where he wanted to get out of the ring, and Don Leo would come and grab him and pull him back. And Don Leo had his little girl with him in a minute. She said, "Daddy, you leave that bear alone. You let him go."
Did you ever work for the Funks or any of those guys, Ron?
No, I never met Senior. I came in the business after Senior was already gone. But, you know, I've worked with them, and most of the time I worked with Dory and Terry was in me and Stan Hansen against them in Japan. Stan went a lot more than I did. I only went the last couple of weeks of April, it was last weeks of March, the first couple of weeks of April. And somehow or another, we always wound up working with them over there. That damn Terry Funk, I'll tell you what, they ain't but one Terry Funk. Now, Dory, what a technique guy he is, but Terry's just a wild man. And me and Stan would get there, we'd just that son of a gun beat on him, and all you'd hear him say, and we blow ourselves up beating on the son of a gun, and all he'd do, I said, boy, this son of a gun, he's tough.
Sorry to interject here. We're talking about Stan Hansen. I have a hunch that he might be calling in. Is that Stan Hansen?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Oh, Stan, welcome to Hart Beat Radio.
Oh, my worst.
Yeah, it's really good to hear old Ron getting on. That's good.
Do I dare tell him, Stan?
You go ahead and tell him because it's a lie, but anyway.
Listen to this, guys. Stan Hansen, the badass of the Panhandle of Texas. I mean, guy grew up in Texas. And if you grow up in Texas, what do you eat? Huh? Don't you think you might eat a steak or two every now and then? That's what my buddy Stan Hansen wound up being. A damn Dagan. Can you believe that?
Oh, Ron, you're blowing it way out of proportion. I just turned it down.
What did we have when we went to lunch or breakfast the other day in that old show? What kind of omelet did you have for breakfast?
A veggie omelet.
Veggie, I rest my case, folks. I rest my case. Big old bad Stan turned into a vegan, man. That is an embarrassment.
You gotta go each end of the spectrum.
Yeah, but you go that far.
Yeah, maybe so. I still eat a steak.
I love this guy, man. Stan's got some good memories. We were talking about Japan. One of the favorite stories I like to tell about Stan, him and I used to, go to a lot of the castles and things over there, and we went to the zoo over there one time, and Stan had just met his now wife, her name was Yumi, and she went to the zoo with us. Now, here, me and old Big Stan, and you go to the zoo, you're going to buy popcorn, you're going to buy all this. And so here, me and him both got popcorn. We're walking around, we're eating this popcorn. Of course, you drop it all over the ground. After a while, Stan says, "Hey, Ron, look behind it." And there comes Yumi behind both of us, picking up popcorn grains that me and him dropped. I said, "Boy, you got a winner there, bud."
Yeah, that's right. Actually, today is my 31st anniversary. Yumi and I.
Congratulations, Stan. I didn't know.
Yeah.
She was a keeper. I don't know why she puts up with you, but anyhow.
Yeah.
She's the one that turned you to.
Down a little bit, I guess, but.
I got you.
She's the best
we've been down the road. I was just telling him about us being in the ring with old Funk. That son of a gun, we'd beat on him, and all he'd do is laugh. You remember that?
I don't know if he was laughing, but he could take that butt kicking, I tell you, because we gave it to him, man. God, I hit Terry Funk harder than I hit anybody in the business, and he just kept on taking it and giving it back.
Oh yeah, I used to laugh at Stan in Japan. We'd go over there, and you do things a little different in Japan than you do here, and over here, you know, you got to be careful how you handle the fans, and you don't try to get out of the ring and you go through the aisle like you're supposed to. Well, this dadgum Stan, instead of going through the aisle, he'll go right through the middle of the cheers. He's just throwing cheers everywhere. I mean, I'm sitting there looking at it. I said, what the hell are you doing? Well, boy, the little Japanese people just running and hiding from him. Time when they get to the ring, he's like, damn, Ron, I'm blown up. You got to start it. Oh, man, that was fun. That was some good times, good memories.
Yeah. I used to. I mean, it was kind of like herding cows. You know, you get all the people running one direction, and you get them and turn them back the other direction. I mean, I must say, I probably had a really good time.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm blown up.
Yeah.
So he'd tell me that, but then I'm going to go another 20 minutes nonstop. I never understood that. I don't know if he understood what the word blowed up meant or not.
Well, it's always nice to have somebody that doesn't short arm tag you.
Well, I don't guess I ever did that.
You're always there for the tag.
But it wasn't long. He was like, let me back in there. I said, come on down, bud. Like the Price is Right. Come on down.
Yeah.
But it was some good times. And
Ron, you had a great career. Not only you were a great partner for me over there, you know, and we had a nice little run and everything. But after that, you went into New York and had a great run. You had some career, you know, and it was all because of your talent and everything. And I'm really glad that you had such a great run, you know.
Well, that means something to me, Stan. So somebody like yourself is saying that. That's awesome, buddy.
You
were there and done it.
Talent and a great partner, and I know that a lot of the promoters around the country that ended up using you, was always really happy with the type of work that you did and everything. And now that we've been out of the business so long, and we look back, and you can kind of stop and look back and say, I did this. I'm not an eye guy, but
right.
We all look back and think, gee whiz, I guess I did something right a little bit back there, and you sure did, So.
Right, and I go back when you and Brody. First time we met, we were in we was talking about Louisiana a minute ago. I wasn't working the territory. I come in there, I was just doing TV on the way through, and it's the first time I met Stan, him, and Brody. And there used to be a place called the Alamo Plaza. That's like a Days Inn or something now. A little bitty cheap room.
It wasn't ever as good as the Days Inn. It was way down yonder. $5.50 a night for the room.
And that was expensive back then, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, there's three of us piled in.
That's even better.
Yeah. Well,
how did we survive, Stanley?
$25, so.
Hey, we had to do what we had to do, didn't we, bud?
That's right. Yeah. I guess it's evolved for the better for all the boys, I'm sure, but
right.
Back then it took a gumption just to keep on going sometimes, but we did it.
Well, Stan tooted my horn a little bit. Let me toot the Stan's, he's in Japan, he's you talking about a star. That son of a gun is a star in Japan, without a doubt. And he deserved everything he did over there, and he made the decision early in his career. He spent a lot of his time over there, and anything he did here in this country was gravy, because he was supporting his family, supporting everything out of what he did in Japan, and then he could come here and he could move around and hit these major shows and be the main events and be there and be gone and then come back, and he never got old, and so it worked out super for Stan. And
well, I'm old now.
Here, man, him talking. You guys got any questions while we're on?
who are the guys were you working with, Baba, or was it Inoki mostly in those days?
No, it was.
I was over there.
Baba.
I was with Baba. I never worked for Inoki. Stan when he first went, he was over there for Inoki, and I started going right after he had made the switch and came over to Baba, and Brody left Baba and went to Inoki. So.
Well, that was way later and everything, but Frank went over and it didn't work out with Frank and Inoki, but he came back and worked for Baba again, and
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah,
but anyway, Brody was a great partner of mine, and we kind of a unique tag team, but. Ron came in there, and we had a great run over there, and for of course John Baba, and I ended up staying with him, until he passed away. And
when did he pass? How long has he been gone?
I think what was it, 2002, 1999 or 2000? I can't remember. One of those right before I retired.
Okay. Well, to answer you guys' question, it was Baba. It was Jumbo Tsuruta.
Yeah. There's another great talent. He was a great talent.
Tsuruta, yeah.
All the Japanese on both sides, they had some really good talent.
Tsuruta was breaking in with you and Dory Jr. and Terry in Amarillo, wasn't he? Somewhere in the...
Yeah. He broke in, but they sent him over to train with the Funks, at the exact same time I was getting broke in. So we were kind of like three boys together there in Amarillo.
73 or 72, somewhere in there with you and...
73.
They called him Tommy Tsuruta at that time.
Yeah.
But
he had just come out of the 72 Olympics, and he, I think he placed fifth or something in the Greco-Roman heavyweight. And,
who was
that? Jumbo Tsuruta.
Oh, Jumbo. Oh, okay. Terry was another.
I think he was a strong guy. He wasn't built strong, but he was tall and he had some great core strength. I couldn't get over, how strong he was, from all that Greco-Roman training, and everything. He died early, that's sad. But Kenyu's still doing good, and he was a great talent. There's so many of those top guys, were all really great talent. In their own right, and they broke them in right, trained them. They had to put in 10 years of getting the dog beat out of them, and if they survived that, then they ended up becoming good stars, and so a lot of those guys, Kobashi, Kawada, Mizawa, all those guys were just great talent.
You two gentlemen are known for being very, very tough. Let me ask you though, when you look back on your careers, who are the few guys who you look at as really truly tough, who you wouldn't want to get back in the ring with?
Well, Ron Bass, I wouldn't ever want to get in with him because I've seen what he's done to other people, and I sure wouldn't want to have done to me.
I've been your tag team partner, and you think I'm going to jump in that mixer with you? Are you out of your mind? Especially, I know you can't see, so. When we look back, it's how you want to define it. Whether somebody that you went in and had a super match with, or somebody was like pulling teeth to be in the ring with. There's two different type of people you're talking about there.
Yeah, that's right.
And Stan knows exactly what I'm talking. Some people you got in the ring, and man, it was just like a dream, and things went well, and everything worked well. Then there was others you got in there. Oh my God, it was like pulling teeth. You wanted to get out of there. So you have to learn how to deal with them. A lot of them have got egos. And if you learn that they've got that ego and you get out in the ring and you let them do what they want to do first, I learned that then it gets a little easier that they will settle down and make a match out of it, try to do what's right. And you have to learn who will do that, who won't. There's some people just don't have the talent to do it, and I wouldn't name names there. But there was other guys. The one that really comes to my mind was wrestling too. If you went out there and tried to overpower him right off the bat, your match was going to be horrible.
Yeah.
But if you went out there and you let him get his thing in, do this, you can tear the building down with him after that. Agree, Stan?
I agree. Yeah, that's a good example right there. Yeah, I think that's a good one. And he was over, but he kept himself, and he wasn't a stepping stone for anybody, for sure.
Oh, yeah, and
but once, like you said, you took a few knees, and then things were a lot easier. So
I let him do that little thing where he pulled out of your headlock and shake and shatter, and let him get his thing over. And once you did that, he'd sell the hell out of it and make a hell of a match out of it.
Right.
He was one of those. But now there's other guys you get in the ring, like you take Barry Windham. I mean, from the start to finish, what a match you could have with him. I mean, what a talent, what a good-looking kid. He was all business, and you talking about a joy to be in the ring with. Barry Windham is way up there top of all of them, I'll be honest with you. A lot of people talk about, well, he was so tall and thin, and then his little brother Kendall come behind him. They were tall and thin. But if you knew Blackjack 30 years before that, guess what? Blackjack was tall and thin. As you get older, you get bigger and thicker. If you see Barry today, he's a hoss. But you're talking about talent, that Barry Windham was way up there. And you take another one that Stan has probably worked 100 times with. Now, you get a ring with Dusty, you might not have the most technical wrestling match in the world, but you can tear the building down with him. I mean, all he had to do was shake that butt a couple of times and throw that elbow and the people was on him. And I mean, and it was a night off to work with Dusty. Are you kidding me? What a talent he was.
Yeah, that's right. That's so true. Yeah. A lot of talent in this business, been through the years.
He talked it, and people believed it. And he was just magnetic on that mic, and that charisma that he put out, and people bought it. I mean, if he had the exposure that Hogan had with New York office, Dusty was a big star anyhow. But if he had that exposure off the bat, they don't tell him how big that dude would have been.
Who out of all the Japanese wrestlers you've worked over the years, who were the 2 or 3 that you really enjoyed wrestling the most?
Man, I tell you, there's so. I mean, like I've already said this, but there is so much good talent. You go from one to another, but like I said, those the 3 guys that came along after Jumbo and Misawa, Kawada, Kobashi, those 3 guys were just, they were young guys, and that guy, I used to beat them down, and they never quit. They just kept fighting from underneath. And eventually, over years, that's how they ended up, becoming the top stars. And people believed in them because they got the crap beat out of them for a long time. But, those guys, but I probably Tenyu would be the guy that I probably enjoyed working with the most. I love Baba. Inoki was a good he was a good worker, and Fujinami and some of those guys on New Japan side. But, I was more involved with All Japan over the years. And, Baba, I enjoyed, Baba. In the end, he was such a, you look at him and, he's a handicap to start with, but the people believed in him and he could do certain things and everything. But Tenyu was my type of guy. We fought each other really good, and he was my style. So, I'd probably say Tenyu's the best.
Ron, could you talk for a minute about your experiences in the World Wrestling Federation and specifically your 1988 feud with Brutus the Barber Beefcake?
Yeah, that was a pretty daring angle back then. You didn't, if you'll remember, you didn't see blood on Vince's shows, and so that was kind of a door opener for the situation there, and we made a lot of money off of it, and made a lot of good things happen from it. It was good for Beefcake, it was good for me, and it was probably the first and maybe the last. I don't remember seeing blood on any of the matches ever since then. So I guess I hold that record that I got somebody's cherry on television. How's that? Beefcake, I knew him and Hogan when they first got started. They were the Boulders, Terry Boulder and Eddie Boulder, and so I'd known them for a long time, and helped them get started, and saw Terry and Eddie both maturing to what they became, and become future stars. And so, it was a good deal, and it helped both of us, so it was a good deal.
What have you been doing since you retired?
I've just been hitting the gym. I still hit the gym 5 days a week, and doing different little marketing companies that I've been going, and just staying busy and staying on top of things. So, if you don't get up, you won't get up very much. So, but I'm just going to stay busy, and I'll stay in the gym till the day I die, because I've never had to have surgery on anything. My knees have never been cut on. My hips have never been cut on. Nothing. I'm still original equipment, and I credit it to still hitting the gym, making it happen, and I'll do it to the day I die.